Ever imagine yourself in a courtroom, right? And the fate of a case is hinging on not just the words, but like understanding all the different legal systems, the cultures. Yeah, that's the life of a lawyer linguist. We asked you guys to send us some fascinating material on this, and oh boy, there's more to it than meets the eye.
There really is. It's like this bridge between languages and the law, right? You're dealing with more than just words on paper. You're navigating these really complex legal systems, and you're ensuring fairness in situations where, well, language could easily become a barrier.
It's like being, I don't know, a legal whisperer, but with like, a multilingual twist, huh? And speaking of twists, I was really surprised by all the different areas of law that lawyer linguists get involved in. It's a lot.
It really is. We saw stuff about criminal law, civil law, even family law and intellectual property. And needing to constantly be adapting your skills to all these different legal landscapes, I think that's what keeps it really interesting.
Okay, so we've established it's interesting, it's diverse, but let's get down to, well, yeah, the nitty-gritty, money. The source material mentioned how these specialists, they can earn a lot, but there's also a lot of work and stress. What's the trade-off there?
Well, just think about it. You've got these specialized skills, high-stakes situations. I mean, what you do, your understanding, it directly impacts these cases. For example, senior lawyer linguists who specialize in international arbitration, they can charge like $500 an hour or even more, according to the source. So that's where the high earning potential comes in. But of course, it comes with those responsibilities. And yeah, long hours are pretty common.
So no rest for the wicked,
Yeah.
right? And no clocking out at 5 p.m. and forgetting about it all. Although speaking of leaving the office, I was kind of surprised that lawyer linguists aren't always stuck at their desks, are they?
Yeah, that's a common misconception. One day you might be in court, interpreting these really intense legal arguments, and the next you're at a law firm, carefully going over contracts. It's definitely a profession that keeps you on your toes.
Like Indiana Jones, but with a law degree. Huh. Okay, but seriously, what does it take to actually be good at this job? The source mentioned some really key skills, and to be honest, some of them surprised me, like active listening being the most important. Really. 61%. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, 61%. But it makes sense when you think about it, right? Imagine being in a courtroom, things are heated, you have to interpret testimony, you're not just translating words, you're trying to figure out the tone, the intent, maybe even cultural cues, and all while making sure that, nothing gets lost in translation. You need incredible active listening for that.
Wow, yeah, I never thought about it like that. It's about understanding the weight of what they're saying, not just the words themselves. And then there's critical thinking, which is also really important, 55%. I get how that goes way beyond just like translating a document, but how so?
Exactly. So a lawyer linguist needs to look at legal documents, yeah, but they need to really understand them, find inconsistencies, yeah. And even those cultural misunderstandings that, honestly, they can make or break a case. It's about critically analyzing the language, for sure, but then also how it fits into the legal system.
And here's one that really got me curious. Social perceptiveness. 52%. That's not your usual translator thing. Why is that so important?
Well, it shows how important the human element is to the job. You're working with lawyers, clients, witnesses, all different backgrounds, and probably in really stressful situations. Being able to read people, understand their emotions, and know how to talk to them, it's essential for building trust and making sure everyone feels heard.
It's almost like being a mind reader, but in the legal world. So let's say someone is interested in this. What's the education path look like? Is it just a law degree and then being fluent? Or is there more to it?
Well, it kind of both. There isn't just one set path.
Yeah.
A law degree is super valuable, especially if you want to be working directly on cases. But a master's in translation studies, focusing on law, that's also a good option, especially if you really love the linguistic side of it.
And what about certifications? Those must be important, right? Because just saying I'm fluent doesn't quite cut it in a courtroom.
You're right, it doesn't. Certifications are proof,
Yeah.
though. They show that you're competent in both languages and legal translation. We'll talk about the specific certifications mentioned in the material a bit later, but yeah, they're really important if you want to be taken seriously and reassure clients.
It's like, when you have that culinary degree to prove you know how to bake. Except here, it's about navigating all those legal terms and phrases. Okay, so let's imagine someone is starting out in this field. What does a junior lawyer linguist actually do on a daily basis?
It's a lot of observing, absorbing everything. You're helping senior colleagues with translations, watching courtroom proceedings, maybe even doing research for legal briefs. It's a very hands-on learning experience.
I bet those senior colleagues really appreciate a fresh perspective and someone who knows their grammar, huh? So what happens as you move up the ladder? What does it mean to be a mid-level lawyer linguist?
That's when you get more independence. You handle more complicated translations on your own. You might specialize in a specific area of law you're passionate about. And this is important. You start working directly with clients.
So you're not just translating anymore, you're becoming a trusted advisor, someone who clients can rely on for both their linguistic and legal needs, right?
Exactly. And as you gain more experience, build your reputation, you might even mentor junior colleagues, which can be very rewarding.
Passing on the knowledge, that's great. But we can't forget those at the top. What does a day in the life of a senior lawyer linguist look like?
Picture this, leading a team of really skilled lawyer linguists on this high-profile case. International arbitration, let's say. Your job is way more than just overseeing translations. You're giving expert analysis, looking at the cultural nuances, the little linguistic things that honestly could decide the entire case.
They're practically legal strategists by that point, shaping the arguments, using their understanding of language and culture.
Exactly. They might even consult with top lawyers, helping them create arguments that are legally sound, but also make sense culturally. It's a big responsibility.
It sounds like they're conducting a legal orchestra, making sure every single note, linguistic and legal, is perfect.
What a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've talked about skills, education, career paths, even some interview tips. But before we get into those, there's something we can't ignore. Technology, AI, machine learning, all that. How is this impacting lawyer linguists? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a really important question, and the answer isn't so simple. The source material mentions technology, sure, particularly translation software, but doesn't really look at the big changes that AI could bring.
Because, yeah, it's one thing to use software to translate words, but legal language, it's so nuanced, right? Can AI really get all of that?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And it's something we'll definitely dive into after a quick break. So we were talking about tech and legal language right before the break. Let's say, you've got all the qualifications, you're getting ready for an interview. The source material had some interesting questions for potential lawyer linguists, like one that really stood out to me.
You mean that one, how did you become interested in law and linguistics? That's not your typical interview question, is it?
Not really, no. It's almost like they want you to prove your passion. Connect the dots between loving languages, understanding legal systems, maybe even tell a story that shows why this work matters to you.
So it's not enough to be good at it. You gotta love it too, huh? Okay, what about that other question, the one about, like, resolving a language conflict in a legal situation? That one seemed really intense.
Yeah, they want to know how you solve problems under pressure. Have you ever had to clear up a misunderstanding, something cultural that could have ruined a whole case? Or, I don't know, come up with a creative way to translate something really complex, but keep the meaning the same? That question is your chance to really impress them.
It's like your legal linguistic superhero origin story. Okay, so you've wowed them with your passion, you've shown you can handle the pressure, but they're gonna want proof, right? Certifications, let's talk about those.
Right, right. So the source material mentions some important ones. Certified legal translator is a big one, obviously. It shows you can handle those legal documents accurately.
No more relying on Google Translate for the important stuff, huh?
Exactly. And then there's certified court interpreter. Essential if you want to work in courtrooms, obviously.
I bet that takes some serious guts, especially during those big trials.
For sure. And then you've got certifications for specific language pairs, too. Those are important to show you're fluent, that you're an expert in your languages.
So it's like, hey, I'm not just certified, I'm certified in ancient Sumerian to Klingon legal translation. Well, maybe not Klingon, but you get the idea. Okay, so you've aced the interview, got your certifications. What's next in this lawyer linguist journey?
Well, remember those career stages we talked about? That junior lawyer linguist, watching, learning, helping out. Imagine them working on a case, international contract, something like that. They're reviewing translations, looking up legal stuff in different languages, maybe even sitting in on client meetings to interpret.
Talk about a crash course in international law.
Right. It's all about building that base of knowledge, both legal and linguistic. Now, let's fast forward a bit. That junior linguist, they're now mid-level, more complex translations, maybe they're specializing in a certain area of law, and really importantly, they're building those relationships with clients.
So they're not just translating anymore, they're becoming someone clients trust, someone they can rely on for both the language stuff and the legal stuff.
Exactly. And as they get more and more experience, they get a good reputation, they might even start mentoring newer lawyer linguists, which a lot of people find really fulfilling.
Passing the torch, I love that. But we can't forget about the people at the top, The experts, what are they doing day to day?
Okay, picture this. You're leading a whole team of lawyer linguists, super skilled, and you're on this huge case, international arbitration, really high stakes. You're not just managing translations anymore. You're giving expert opinions, thinking about all the cultural stuff, the tiny little linguistic details that could actually decide the whole case.
Wow, they're like legal strategists at that point. They understand the law A&D, language ND culture, and they use it all.
Absolutely. They might even be consulting with top lawyers, helping them create arguments that are, legally perfect, but also make sense to everyone, culturally speaking. It's a big deal.
It's like they're conducting this legal orchestra, making sure every note is perfect, both the legal ones and the linguistic ones.
I like that analogy. It's about seeing the whole picture, how everything fits together, the law, the language, the culture.
Speaking of the big picture, we've talked about the human side of this, but we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Or maybe it's more like an algorithm in the room, huh? AI. It's changing everything. How is it impacting lawyer linguists? Good, bad, something else?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
And it's something the source material touches on, but it doesn't really explore the huge changes AI could bring.
Yeah, it's one thing to use software for basic translations, but legal language is so much more than that, so nuanced. Can AI really understand all of that?
That is the big question, and we'll dive into it right after this.
Are we all going to be replaced by robots? Can AI really replace a human lawyer linguist? That's what we want to know.
Well, it's a hot topic, that's for sure. I mean, you see more and more of these AI translation tools, right? For contracts, legal research, everything. Things are definitely changing.
Yeah, and it's easy to see why people are worried, right? Jobs disappearing and all that. So, what do you think? 10 years from now, will we still need human lawyer linguists?
I don't think it's about replacing, it's about adapting. AI might get really good at like the straight translation part, but legal language, it's about so much more. It's intent, cultural nuances, understanding how different legal systems work. That stuff's not easy to program, at least not yet.
It's like those self-driving cars, right? Fine on a sunny day, but throw in some crazy weather or a detour, and you'll be wishing for a human driver pretty quick.
Exactly. And in law, the stakes are way higher than just getting somewhere. One mistranslated word, one cultural misunderstanding could completely change a case. That's where humans are still irreplaceable.
Okay, so AI isn't replacing anyone, but does that mean it doesn't matter for aspiring lawyer linguists?
Not at all. Honestly, I think the opposite. The lawyer linguists who learn to use these new technologies, they're going to be the ones who really succeed. It's like adding a whole new skill set.
So don't be afraid of AI. Become the AI whisperer, right? Bridging the gap between the human and the machine.
Exactly. They might be the ones training the AI, making sure it understands all those legal and cultural subtleties. Or they might focus on the areas where human judgment is absolutely essential.
So it's not humans versus machines. It's more like humans working with machines. I like that.
Me too. And for anyone listening who's thinking about this field, I think it's a really exciting time. We need clear communication. We need to bridge those cultural and legal gaps. And that need isn't going away. If anything, it's becoming even more important.
That's a great point and a really positive note to end on. This whole deep dive really got me thinking, though. The source material talked about cultural sensitivity, right? But as the world gets even more connected, do you think there will be, like, completely new specializations within this field? Like someone who focuses on intercultural legal mediation or something?
That's an interesting question. And it shows how this field is always changing. What it looks like today might be totally different in 10, 20 years.
Exactly. So, to wrap things up, if you're fascinated by language, if you love the law, and if you like a challenge, the world of a lawyer linguist could be for you. It's about always learning, adapting to new technology, and being at the forefront of how we communicate globally.
Well said. And on that note, it's time for us to sign off. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you all on our next deep dive.